TillDeathInfo.com. It's your man Kill.
And Dr. Roz.
Now Mondays, we back in effect. More questions to answer. But we love them. So keep them coming. TillDeathInfo@gmail.com. Keep them coming. This is the whole reason why we started this. So, we love doing our Male Mondays and Female Fridays and the topics and things like that. But we also go to questions. And also, if you have some topics that y'all think we should chop it up about,
let us know.
TillDeathInfo@gmail.com.
All right, so let's get in this question. It says, "Hi, Dr. Roz and Kill. I have been married for almost 2 years. I was very independent and happy to go and come as I please prior to getting married, and to some degree while dating and being engaged to my now husband. One of the things that I have noticed is the line between doing what needs to be done for me versus doing something for our marriage, us as a couple. We do have different personalities, but I think that brings us balance. I am very much willing to give 100% of myself for the marriage, and I feel as though I have been. But does that require me giving up 25% of my personal desires or giving in 25% of the time? Is there a magic number? If not, what's the formula? For example, should I go and have dinner out with my best friend, which has been planned for weeks, or cancel on her and go on an impromptu date with my husband? Or should I go to graduate school this fall or wait until we're in a better place financially? I've always heard that you should pick your battles, but you know how it is." I think this is a very good question.
Yeah, good question.
Because once you do become a wife, your life, or husband, once you become married, your life is going to drastically change. It is. If you were that person that was in the club 4 weekends out the month, yeah, that's not going to happen in a marriage. You hang that up. I mean, if it does, I'm not sure.
Right.
Well, I don't want to judge. It wouldn't happen in my marriage. So, well, it wouldn't. It wouldn't happen in yours either, right?
Nah.
Yeah, it just, it
But it's based, with that being said, it's based off of, if T was the type of chick who was in the club every week, I probably wouldn't have married her. But then I know there are people who would marry that person and then just expect them to know
to
change. That should change automatically because we're married now.
Yeah, and sometimes you got to sit down and have the conversation of expectations, which we don't do because we think when we first get into marriage that we're supposed to be so in love, and we got to prove to the world that, oh, we're so in love, we're newlyweds, and we love each other, and we know everything about each other because you're trying to prove to everybody else that yes, you two should have got married. Truth of the matter is, you got to sit down and talk about those expectations. I can recall when when Frank and I first got married, it was probably like a month after we came back from the honeymoon. And our situation was different. I lived in Pennsylvania while he was still down here in the DC area. So it was still kind of like we were dating. So I was still trying to do my wifely duties because you hear, you got to be a good wife. You got to be a good wife. And heck, you try to do everything and you don't know what constitutes being a good wife. So I remember being in the grocery store trying to grocery shop, and we're competing with the kids outside. Sorry, people. I remember being in a grocery store trying to grocery shop and just like having a freaking meltdown because I couldn't decide whether I wanted to buy turkey or ham.
You don't know why I call you crazy.
I know. I had a meltdown, but it wasn't so for Frank's lunch. But it wasn't so much about should I get the turkey or should I get the ham. It's like, oh my gosh, am I really doing this wife thing right? Am I being a good wife? And I got caught up in that. Oh my gosh, when I called my parents, I called one of my sorors. Hey, Kanye. Called one of my sorors and I was like, I don't know what to get Frank for lunch. She dies laughing. I called my parents. My parents fall out laughing. I'm like crying like I'm in 3rd grade. It's not at all because I was overwhelmed. And my point is, there's just an overwhelming feeling that you have when you get married and you feel like you have to give all to your marriage because that's what people tell you to do. But you do have to save a little bit for yourself. So in terms of her question, I don't think it's like a magical formula of 25% here, 25% there. I don't think that's true. I think it comes to a point to where you have to see what the give and take is in your relationship. What are you guys willing to compromise on? Now, I still take my annual girls trip every year as something that's set in stone. My husband already knows that I'm going to do it. Just like I know that every now and then, he used to do it every Friday, but every now and then he has a poker night with his boys. And I know those are things that he needs to do for himself to still feel like he's in, I don't know.
Alive.
I didn't want to say that, but Not so much to still feel like a man, but just to do things to where he hasn't killed his whole life. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I think the way that I look at it is a little different.
Oh, okay.
I look at it a little different as that your marriage is always going to be a compromise.
Yes.
In my opinion. So it's not a magic number of should I get 25% this time or 75%. If you get your way, just hug your husband, tell him I love you, because 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a compromise on everything. That's the whole premise of the two becoming one. And it's like Rod said, it's very frustrating. There was times when I first got married, and I'm like, I don't even know who I am anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You almost lose your own identity, but I feel like that's part of the two becoming one. Yeah. I think the situation of, and I got this advice from a couple, my homegirl, whose parents have been married for forever. My mother was telling me, Kill, look, marriage is like a baby. You know what I'm saying? You got to nurture it. The first year of your child's life, you do everything for that child. And as the child gets older, the child becomes more independent. But the child is always going to need you. But the time may be less and less and less. And I feel like it's the same way with your marriage. If you're 2 years in, your marriage is like a 2-year-old.
Yeah, it's
still a baby. So you may have to give up some more time to kind of keep your marriage. You're building it right now. You're literally building it from the ground up. Yeah. So it's kind of like if you've ever seen a building getting built, there's so much construction going on in DC. A lot of times once the frame is up and everything like that, then it's easy. Then they're just filling in the bricks and everything else. But getting that frame up and getting the foundation set. Yeah. So you're 2 years in your marriage. You're in your foundational years. You're in the years of, this is what we put into this marriage now is going to be what we reap. You're
not supposed to know it all 2 years
right ago. So it's one of those things where when you say, should I hang out with my best friend or go to an impromptu dinner with my husband, do you feel like your husband needs that surprise dinner? Do you feel like your marriage is in a place where y'all need some time together? And that's the way you answer that question. You know what I'm saying?
You have every night to do that with your husband. You can't just
not every,
on your girls.
But every night they may not have, she said, a surprise impromptu dinner. You may not have that every night. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, at the end of the day,
this is great because then I can feel where she may have been torn, because I'm like, but you gave your word to your girls. Like, you can't bail out on your girls. And so to me, it's so important to keep my word.
Out on their dudes all the time. If wifey is like, bring that home, bring your butt home, it's like, all right, PlayStation down, I'm out. So it's the same thing. What does your marriage need at that time? There's nothing wrong with having to ask. Like, hey,
do check-ins.
Yeah, it's a check-in, but it's also a gentle balancing act. Yeah. Marriage is a balancing act, and especially because you're in your foundational years. T and I have been married for 11 years, so I'm a real organized person. So, with us, it's like, okay, Mondays and Wednesdays are her nights off, and those are the nights that I get Naomi in. I get her fed and get her to bed and do homework, and that's time for her to be able to hang out with her friends. So she knows every Monday and Wednesday she can do her, and every Tuesday and Thursday I can do me. I don't know if that schedule would work in a first year of a marriage. It may work, it may not work. Yeah. It's about your marriage. But 11 years in, this schedule works good because it gives her 2 days a week that she knows she doesn't even have to think about what's Naomi going to eat tonight, what's her homework, what's her Bible study homework. She doesn't even have to think about that. And I live for Tuesdays and Thursdays because I know I don't have to worry about that. I can just enjoy myself. So all my friends know, y'all want to get together, happy hour after work, Tuesdays, Thursdays. Those are my days, and that works for us. So it's really trying to come up with a system that works for you. Yeah. Now, I know for me and T, we're not from Maryland, where we live at. She's from Harlem, I'm from Philly. And at first I was thinking about moving back to Philly, but I was like, at that time, I was like, it wouldn't be good for my marriage. Because we were building that foundation. Yeah. Now, maybe if we were already in Philly and my mom and all my friends and everything, but coming from your foundation is just the two of us, then trying to move 2 to 3 years into marriage back to Philly, now she may feel like, well, she's in competition with...
She got to start over.
Right. It's a situation where, my mom is, lives by herself, so that means when it's time to shovel snow, of course, I take care of my house first, but then, boom, I got to go to mom's house and do that. And, it's just things to do. You got more people pulling on you. Yeah. So it's just... Now, again, at 11 years in, we're now looking like, okay, Philly will be good. We need the support. We need the help. But not right now. I ain't got no money to leave. So when we blow up, then maybe.
Don't roll out on me. This thing's getting good.
We ain't rolling. But I'm just saying it to say that you kind of got to, number one, look at your marriage. That your marriage is in your foundational years. Yeah. This is like the investment period. And what you're putting in, is important. You got to spend time with your friends. I'm not saying, please don't hear me as saying for 2 years, don't see nobody but your husband. Yeah. No. Spend time with your friends. But I'm just saying at the end of the day, if it comes down to my friends or my husband, it shouldn't be a decision. It's your husband. Yeah. Same thing with a man. It's your wife. If it's a intramural basketball, if it's just wide. I know dudes who used to get together every Sunday to watch The Sopranos. You know what I'm saying? And if your wife has a rough day and she wants you home on a Sunday, then it shouldn't be what do I do? Watch The Sopranos or, go home to my wife. It's one of those things where you have to assess the situation. Yeah. As far as going back to school, it has to be a plan. Yeah. It has to be a plan. I always use this equation for people who went to college. If you're not doing good with your 12 credits, don't take another class. Don't make it 15. If you can't pass 12 credits, don't make it 15. So if your marriage is kind of rocky and everybody's don't add something else to the plate that's only going to make things worse. And I think even if you do agree.
And she asked about being financially fit. If you're not financially fit, don't.
And even if I think what people have to do, and I saw this kind of off topic, but the whole thing about how the whole Bin Laden thing went down, how they killed dude. I was looking at the behind the scenes footage with the SEALs, and they were saying that a helicopter crashed when they were going into their mission. But the SEALs prepared for that because they realized the plan ain't gonna be perfect 9 times out of 10. That's what we have to start doing in our marriage. We'll just agree, if me and Roz are married, you want to go back to school, cool. And that's it. We don't plan for the plan B of, well, what happens if now you're in school and now you ain't home enough for me and dinner ain't ready,
Well, or if you're going back to graduate school, you done failed the class. Right. So now you're not getting financial aid. So what are we going to do now?
So it's one of those things where I think even when we make those kind of decisions, we got to put a plan B into effect. Like, we're going to take this semester by semester and we'll look at it like that. Because then what happens is the person says, well, you agreed to it and I'm into it and I got my books and I'm in groups and now you want me to say no. It's like, let's set up a plan. Like, hey, looks good, sounds good, but let's come up with an emergency plan in case things don't work out, that we can plan for them.
My really good friend, my line sister, actually, Stephanie, and her husband, Rodney, I think the way they worked out that whole educational thing was just beautiful because 1 year she'd go to school and she was able to finish her master's in social work, and when she completed everything, and this is all while having kids and everything, when she completed her degree in social work, he then went back to school for his PhD. He just kind of finished it up. So I think it's like, you do it now, and I'll hold down the fort, and then when it's your time, you do it that way. Right. But both of y'all trying to do it at the same time, it's going to cause conflicts, and it's going to be...
And more importantly than anything, like we always say, Roz and I are both Christians. At the end of the day, pray on it. We make so many decisions just based off of how we feel at the time. Oh, I can't find a job, and I see more jobs for master's degrees, so 1 + 1 = 2. So I guess maybe if I get a master's degree, then I can get my job. So you gotta really just sit down and things. I've always said, and I know pastors teach on praying about everything.
Yeah.
About everything. I struggle with that. I'm not gonna front. I'm good on praying about big things: house, school, cars, kids, things like that. I'm not really good on the praying about everything.
No, I think that's real.
Right.
Me either, because I'm like, it's
but it is
this. Yeah.
Right, but I do think it's a situation when coming in the things like that, and what should we do? Those are things that you really got to pray about. Seek God's vision for your life on it, and that's going to be something else we're going to be talking about. Coming up with a mission statement for your marriage. Because when we start a business, the first thing we do is a mission statement. People who work for organizations and jobs, some places want you to memorize that mission statement so that you can spew it off like that. And it's like, that's how important a mission statement is for an organization or a new job. So we're going to be talking about coming up with a mission statement.
You're always looking forward to your goals.
Right. So we're going to be talking about coming up with a mission statement for your marriage.
Let us know, how you guys are doing. And not so much that there's no formula, just what works for you,
So keep it locked till death and the floor. It's Kill.
Dr. Roz.
All right.